Well, hello and welcome, and thank you for your interest in this documentary of Mensa of Northeastern New York, covering the time from 2011 to 1963 when the group was established. This is segment 5 of the part of the documentary covering the years 2010 back to 1963. The documentary actually consists of 2 parts. The part we're going to look at now covers the time from October 2010 back to December 1963. And the other part covers the time from November 2010 through December 2011. And we'd invite you to look at that also. There are actually 7 segments of the part of the documentary covering the time from October 2010 back to December 1963. Segment 1 includes an introduction and overview, and segments 2, 3, and 4 provide information about and interviews with the presidents and LocSecs of those times. Segment 2 covers the presidents from 2011 to 2006, segment 3 from 2006 to 1993, and segment 4 from 1993 to 1963. Segment 5 includes information about other positions in Mensa of Northeastern New York, and also information about some of the other noteworthy members, both present and past. Segment 6 includes information about many of the events of the group and also the communications used in the group. Mostly the communications were newsletters until the digital media came available. There's also information about American Mensa and the Mensa Education and Research Foundation, just in case anyone is not totally familiar with them. Also, there are references in segment 6. The references were used in the research and preparation of the documentation. Segment 7 includes the methodology that was used in research and preparation of the documentary. The author considers this very important because it shows the authenticity of the contents of the documentary. Also, segment 7 includes acknowledgments to the many, many people who contributed either to the research or to the preparation or both of the documentary. It also focuses on the heritage of Mensa of Northeastern New York and includes the reflections by the author after having completed the research and documentation. There's also part of the documentary that covers the years from 2010 to 2011, and we invite you to look at some of the segments of that part also. So now let us begin with a welcome by President Rob Salkin.
Hi, my name is Rob Salkin. I'm the president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Welcome to the first 46 of 48 years of the history of Mensa of Northeastern New York, as put together in a documentary form by Kellogg. There's also a second part, which covers my term in office, beginning on November 1st, 2010. Enjoy and keep in touch.
Well, now that we've seen and heard about the presidents and the LocSecs of Mensa of Northeastern New York, let's look at some of the other positions and their incumbents from 2010 to 1963. Joe Manuel, in addition to the other positions, was also area coordinator for the northern area of Mensa of Northeastern New York for many years. By virtue of his residing in Fort Edward, Joe was the Northern Area Coordinator. He had that title formally in the newsletters in 1994, 1995, 1996, and 1997 at least. Joe had grown up in Whitehall, New York, and worked most of his career in the paper-making industry in and around Queensbury, New York, and that region. As we mentioned in previous slides, Joe was the creator and the first LocSec of Mensa of Northeastern New York. There were other energetic and motivated members of the group who served as a Mensa coordinator for the northern area. However, in the early years of our Mensa group, Joe Manuel, quote, helped get things done, close quote, whenever and wherever needed. Nancy Shane was also an area coordinator for the northern area. Nancy was in the position at least in 1978 to 1980. At the time she was northern coordinator for that part of the territory, she was the contact person for all Mensa members and anyone else who wanted information about American Mensa. The area she covered went west from Vermont along the Canadian border to Malone, and then down to Blue Mountain Lake, over to Ticonderoga, and up the Vermont border. She contacted members in her area and had some meetings. It was an advantage for the northern area to include the State University College at Plattsburgh and the Adirondack Community College in Saranac Lake, and that community college is where the past president of American Mensa of Northeastern New York, Roy Schneider, had been on the faculty. Nancy invited potential members to take the admission test, the Mensa admission test, with the proctor at the time, Marty Berman. And then, beginning in 1979, there was a new proctor, Rita Levine. Nancy made a great effort to participate in the Mensa testing day each year. Bob Kidder was an editor from 1990 to 1991. At the time, Bob was known as a mover and shaker in Mensa of Northeastern New York. In February 1990, he created a Mensa event which came to be known as Put Off Everything, Tomorrow's Saturday. It was held every Friday evening at Bishopsgate Pub in Malta. The event was very well received, and in September he wrote that, quote, when we first arrived, we found the tables all neatly arranged along the back wall to form a single long table with 15 place settings, flowers in bud vases, and a reserved sign even, close quote. Bob became the editor of the newsletter of Mensa of Northeastern New York with the June 1990 issue, and in the May 1991 issue, he announced that was his last issue as editor. Bob was also the membership officer of Mensa of Northeastern New York from at least September 1990 through at least July 1991. While in Mensa of Northeastern New York, Bob Kidder met Katrina LeBrun, and later they married, and they moved to Ohio in 1997, and as of 2011, they're still members of the Dayton area Mensa group. There were other editors at various times, and some of them were the following. Rich Rakowski began as an editor in December of 2011, but that was for the third time, and he had been editor 2 times before, which we'll see as we go down the list. Rob Salkin was the editor in 2011 from September to November. John Hornberger was editor from November 2009 through August 2011. Judy Keating was editor from October 2003 through October 2009. Charlene Crisafulli was editor from January 2003 through August of 2003. Leo Kellogg was editor from March 2001 through December 2002. Rich Rakowski was the editor before that. This was the second time that he had been editor, and that was from November 1998 through February 2001. Prior to that, Ron Norris was the editor, at least from September 1997 through October 1998. Jeanette Durand was editor at least from February to April 1995 and at least July 1997. Jeanette was a very good editor and provided some of the background newsletters for use in preparation of this documentary. Jane Friedlander was editor from August 1991 through at least August 1994. Dar Novak was editor in 1991. We've talked about Bob Kidder, who was editor from February 1990 through May 1991. And Rich Rakowski. Rich was editor for the first time from 1986 through May 1990. Rich is the only person who has been editor at 3 different times in Mensa of Northeastern New York. In 1982, Andrew Grosjean was editor. In 1979, Virginia Benchheimer was editor, and Marty Berman was editor in 1975. There have been a number of gifted children coordinators in Mensa of Northeastern New York. Here are a few, and others can be researched from the records. The gifted children coordinator is an interesting position. It is, of course, filled with the person who volunteers to do it, and how it is conducted, what the person does, is in large part up to that person. There are some assists, and of course the American Mensa website and coordinator, staff member there helps, and the local state education department can help in that regard also. The work, to a large extent, is with individuals or individual groups, and the coordinator is able to collect a number of resources so that people who are inquiring on a somewhat casual basis can also have some material on the first inquiry. Peter Soukeris was the local scholarship chair for Mensa of Northeastern New York for 3 years, from 2007 until 2010. The scholarship essay program is actually conducted by the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. And the foundation invites each Mensa group to participate. And when the group agrees, there is a participation agreement, and that group appoints a local scholarships coordinator. In September of the year, the local scholarships coordinator, in this case Peter Sakaris, prepares publicity and other materials and sends it out to school districts, colleges, the press, and any group or entity that might be interested in applying or having their members apply. And the applications can actually be downloaded from the website of Mensa Education and Research Foundation, but also Peter Sakaris was able to mail some on request. Then there would be 3 members within the local group selected or invited to evaluate the applications and essays. The rules are set up very carefully by the Mensa Education and Research Foundations. And then beginning in September, when the entries came in, the local scholarship chair has them evaluated, and by mid-February sends them on to the regional scholarship chair, and then also at that time the local scholarship chair sends his or her expense report to the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. And then in May, the list of winners is published on the website of the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. Over the years, Mensa of Northeastern New York has had many local scholarship chairs. Here are some, and the names of many others could be researched from the records.
Joe O'Malley is certainly a master of Mensa administration testing in Mensa of Northeastern New York. He's also a senior proctor of the group. Joe's been administering the Mensa admission test since 2000, all the way up to the present, 2011. He was also formally designated as the proctor coordinator from 2000 to 2001. Since 2001, he has continued to function as a proctor coordinator until about 2010. In that capacity, he received the names of applicants from American Mensa, assigned them to proctors, assisted the proctors to locate testing sites, ensured they had supplies, and helped them with the other administrative work, such as notifying the candidates and collecting the papers and the fees, and properly and promptly sending them to American Mensa. He also received from American Mensa listings of members of Mensa of Northeastern New York who potentially would be proctors, and then he contacted them to see if they were. He helped those who were interested to secure the necessary formal proctor certification. He did this throughout the year, but in October, American Mensa had a Mensa testing day each year, and he focused especially to be sure that Mensa of Northeastern New York had good representation on Mensa testing day. Some of the other proctor coordinators in Mensa of Northeastern New York have been Mary Beth Farr, and she was proctor coordinator at least from January to July of 1997. Mary Beth was interviewed in Albany at one point by the Albany Times-Union newspaper, and her picture and a synopsis of the interview was included and publicized in that paper. It was good publicity for Mensa of Northeastern New York. Lynn Hill was proctor coordinator at least from June 1995 through December 1995, and also from July 1994 through August 1994, and also she was proctor coordinator in January of 1993. She probably was proctor coordinator throughout that whole time, but I was only able to document those specific periods of time. David Owens was another proctor coordinator for Mensa of Northeastern New York, and he was the proctor coordinator at least from January 1993 to January 1994. Dorothy Noor was proctor coordinator also, at least in January 1991. At all times in Mensa of Northeastern New York, there was at least one proctor, and mostly there were more than one proctor, several proctors at a time. Of course, all the proctor coordinators were proctors. That's how come they're proctor coordinators. Otherwise, they'd be Mensa testing coordinators. So the Mensa proctors, coordinators, that we've already mentioned before were Mary Beth Farr, David Owens, Lynn Hill, and Dorothy Noor. The other individuals who were proctors were Leo Kellogg through May of 2009, Sharmi Miller, at least in 2002, and we mentioned Mary Beth Carr, at least in June 2000, David Owens, at least in July 1996, and also in January 1991. Lynn Hill, at least in January 1991 and in January 1994. Dorothy Noor, at least in March 1992 and January 1989. Carla Del Rey was a proctor, at least in January 1991, and Robert Gardens was a proctor, at least in January 1989. Joseph O'Malley was the webmaster of Mensa of Northeastern New York from 2000 to 2009. As webmaster, Joe's main function was to maintain the Mensa of Northeastern New York website. In addition, he assured that the monthly newsletter of the group was promptly put into the website and that notices of events were sent through the group distribution list in Yahoo and on Facebook. Each month, he sent a reminder to all members of the deadline to submit entries for the newsletter for the following month. He worked closely with the newsletter editor, also with the events coordinator, and the recruitment and publicity coordinator, the testing coordinator, or the proctor coordinator, and the president, to assure that the website included proper and timely items, graphics, hyperlinks, formats, and pages. His goals were to make the website attractive and
Well, now that we've looked at some other positions and their incumbents in Mensa of Northeastern New York, let's look at some other noteworthy members, both present and past, who are representative of the membership of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Monica Wilson is a noteworthy member of Mensa of Northeastern New York. She is an accomplished musician, has been playing the cello and bass for more than 30 years. She's a teacher on a full-time basis at the Empire State Youth Orchestra's City Strings program. This is based in Schenectady, but she also teaches as part of that program in Albany, at a school in Albany, as well as 3 in Schenectady. She's a teacher in a program there that provides private lessons for budding musicians, and those are at middle schools. But the students mostly cannot provide funding themselves for private lessons or for instruments. In addition to her work as a music teacher while teaching the students, she helps them in other ways to get used to a better life, helps them especially to set a series of goals for the work they're doing, to work hard, and always to set their sights higher. She and her husband, Michael Roche, prepared the music for this documentary. Michael is a pianist and a keyboardist, and they work together outside of their regular work. They're members of duets and trios. And in addition to the above, Monica was also employed at the Juilliard School of Music in New York City as a department head for cello. She and Michael are the proud parents of 2 children, their daughter Peyton and their brother Avery. And Peyton also is a Mensan, and became a Mensan when she was 3 years old. Charles Raymond is a noteworthy member of Mensa of Northeastern New York. He joined Mensa on April 19, 1971, and as of the preparation of this multimedia presentation, within Mensa of Northeastern New York, he had the 3rd longest membership in Mensa. He's been a member of 5 Mensa groups: Indianapolis, Indiana; Kansas City, Missouri; Washington, D.C., New Hampshire Mensa, and now Mensa of Northeastern New York. He retired from U.S. military service in 1981 as a lieutenant colonel, moved into the territory of Mensa of Northeastern New York, and became a member. Since 2001, he's been an adjunct lecturer of the Empire State College of the State University of New York. At the Empire State College, he has taught courses in World History 1 and 2, both print-based and online versions. He's also taught European civilization since 1851. That was in print. And now teaches science and technology in Western culture. And that's an online course. He also teaches Vietnam, a cross-national perspective. That's an online course. But he had a variety of military experiences. During his active duty, he had a variety of challenging and interesting assignments in the United States, South Vietnam, India, and South Asia. And some of his assignments were to be a training officer for field artillery He trained cadets at the United States Military Academy at West Point. He was training evaluator for amphibious operations and cold weather operations. He was responsible for training and preparation for combat operations. He was an advisor for South Vietnam Infantry Battalion. He was company commander for combat training. Also, a fire support officer for the 1st Cavalry Mobile Infantry Battalion. He was assistant professor at the University of Delaware Reserve Officers Training Corps. And he was author and instructor at the United States Army Command and General Staff College. Charles comes from a family with a long military history, of which he's very proud. His great-great-grandfather graduated from West Point in 1836. His great-grandfather, Charles Raymond, graduated from West Point in 1865. And he had a interesting career. He finished as a brigadier general, and one of his major military missions was to explore and make a map of the Yukon River in Alaska in 1869 using a steamship. He was also involved in the construction of the railroad tubes under the Hudson River between the state of New Jersey and New York City. Charles' great-grandfather graduated from West Point in 1893 and retired as a colonel. And Charles' father graduated from West Point in 1931 and finished his military career as a colonel. So Charles is a very noteworthy member of Mensa of Northeastern New York. He also has various degrees and has published several works. We're very proud that Charles Raymond is a member of Northeastern New York.
Hal Jury. Hal Jury is noteworthy because he was a very ardent Mensan and had a brilliant, stellar intellect. He was proud to be a Mensan. Hal had a BA degree from Wesleyan University and an MPA degree, master's degree from Syracuse University. His career was in New York State government, where he held several positions in the budget division of the governor's office. Hal had started in an entry-level position, their entry professional level, and had been promoted until he was an assistant chief budget examiner in the budget division of the governor's office. In addition to his work life, Hal was very proud of his children, Lexa and Michael, both of whom are professionals now in their work lives. One of the things that Hal enjoyed was to travel. He had traveled extensively in Europe, and this photograph shows Hal returning from his trip to Kazakhstan. Hal was an intellectual, and he could converse with anyone on just about any subject, and he enjoyed doing so. He had a wide variety of interests and was willing to try new adventures. He took great satisfaction in recruiting new members for Mensa, one of whom was Leo Kellogg, who later became the president of Mensa and then the historian of Mensa. Hal and Leo worked together in other organizations too, such as the Empire State Capital Area chapter of the American Society for Public Administration and the Albany Torch Club, which is a professionals discussion group.
Peter Houston is a noteworthy former member of Mensa of Northeastern New York. He joined in about 2000 or a little before and was a member for about a year. Peter has 2 master's degrees. One is from Cornell, and it's in East Asian Studies. And for his thesis that he wrote, it had a focus on Chinese history with additional study of philosophy and a history of science. And also, at a later time, he did intensive Mandarin Chinese language study. The other master's is from the University of New York at Albany, and that has to do with teaching English to speakers of other languages. And interestingly, one of the aspects that he researched while studying for that degree was the effects of language learning anxiety on language acquisition. Peter has quite a command of languages. English is his native language, but he also has full professional proficiency in Spanish and professional working proficiency in Mandarin Chinese. But in addition to that, he has elementary proficiency in Korean, Burmese, Italian, and French. He has been teaching at Fudan University, F-U-D-A-N, Fudan University in Shanghai, China. Now, this is an institution, educational institution, with between 1,001 to 5,000 employees. So it's a pretty good size place. He has also been an author, has published 3 books, and has another one. One of that he's published had to do with a detailed study of Chinese gangs, secret societies, and underground religious cults. And he also has another book that he's working on. It's a full book-length critique of the traditional arts and sciences of China. He's also written articles for various magazines, and they have been published in been translated into a number of languages. One of the articles that he wrote had to do with traditional Chinese medicine, and he looked at a focus from of that specialty from thousands of years. And he's also a member of 31 different groups or associations. So Peter certainly is a noteworthy member of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Mensa of Northeastern New York has many members who have been Mensans for a long time, 25, 30, 35, 40, even 45 years. And some of those with 40 or more years of service are Willard Hoyt, who started in August 1966, Charles Raymond, started in April 1971, Francis Valentino, April 1972, and Gregory Lake, May 1972. Mensa of Northeastern New York is very proud of these members with long membership duration. Well, this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York was prepared by Leo A. Kellogg, who was the first ever historian of Mensa of Northeastern New York. The documentary is copyrighted for and by Mensa of Northeastern New York, and all rights are reserved. Well, here's a listing of all the segments of the 2010 to 1963 part of the documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York. When you're done looking at this summary, just go ahead and shut off your video. And we thank you again for your interest in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York.